the Las Vegas Raiders may have found a hidden gem, and his name is Thomas Booker. Raider Nation, this young defensive lineman showed flashes of something special, and we need to talk about it. Now, before we dive into the latest breakdown, make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and don't forget to press the bell icon so you never miss fresh Raiders updates. Alright, let's get into it. In his first real opportunity, Booker played 44 snaps, 30 as a pass rusher and 14 against the run. The results? 5 total pressures, 1 quarterback hit, and 4 hurries. You could feel his presence on the field, and that's exactly what Raider fans have been waiting for, young guys stepping up. What stood out most was his first step quickness and movement, something that immediately jumped off the tape. He's far from a finished product, but the upside is there. If he continues to develop, the Raiders may have just landed a serious contributor for the future. What really jumps off the screen when you watch Thomas Booker is his explosiveness out of the stance. On one snap, he was so quick that the right tackle never even had a chance. Booker was already in his chest, collapsing the pocket before the offense could react. Plays like that don't always end in sacks, but they change the rhythm of an offense. That's the beauty of Booker's game. It's not just about finishing the play, it's about forcing the quarterback to speed up his decision-making. Even without racking up sacks, he's showing that ability to disrupt, and that's exactly what the Raiders' defensive line needs more of. And here's where it gets exciting. Against teams that like to stretch the field and take deep shots, that kind of first-step quickness becomes even more dangerous. If he keeps showing this burst, don't be surprised if we see him actually finishing those plays and getting home against some of the league's top offenses. When you turn on the tape, one thing jumps out immediately. Thomas Booker's movement is different. On one rep, the Raiders faced an outside zone run. Instead of getting sealed off, Booker shot through the backside gap with ridiculous quickness and disrupted the entire play. Normally, when defensive tackles crash backside like that, they take themselves out of the action. But Booker? He made himself part of it, forcing the runner to hesitate and allowing his teammates to clean it up. That's rare awareness combined with speed. Now, let's be clear, Booker is still developing as a technician. You're not going to see polished swim moves or a full catalog of pass rush counters just yet. But the raw traits are absolutely there. His first step is so explosive that even seasoned guards struggle to anchor against him. There were multiple snaps where he simply powered into the interior, got underneath blockers, and drove them straight back into the quarterback's lap. One of the most impressive moments came against the Patriots' All-Pro right guard. Booker didn't record a sack on the play, but he collapsed the pocket with a bull rush, forcing the quarterback to hurry. And here's something most fans may have missed. On Isaiah Polamau's interception, Max Crosby got the hit, but it was Booker working that stunt with Crosby who helped create the chaos. He was right there, almost getting home himself. These are the kinds of contributions that don't always show up in the stat sheet but change games. Another example, on a trap run concept, the Patriots tried to get a tight end climbing to linebacker Devin White. But because Booker beat the center so quickly, the tight end had no choice but to block Booker instead of White. That split-second disruption freed White to shoot the gap untouched and blow up the play. That doesn't happen without Booker doing the dirty work up front. It's those little things, the plays that won't make the highlight reels, that show just how much upside the Raiders may have unlocked here. Booker isn't just flashing. He's proving he can be a difference maker when it matters. Thomas Booker has already shown flashes, but the key now is whether he can take the next step. To do that, he needs two things: more reps and better technique. Right now, his biggest weapon is his burst off the line, that quick first step that offensive linemen struggle to handle. But if he can add a refined set of pass rush moves, he could become a real force in this league. Think about what separates the elite interior defenders, guys like Chris Jones or Jalen Carter. They don't just rely on power or speed, they use their hands, they swim, they swipe, they counter. That's the kind of growth Raider Nation should be looking for with Booker. If he can combine his natural athleticism with even a handful of polished techniques, he's going to be a problem for opposing offenses. And here's something else we learned from the Raiders' first game. This defensive line isn't being used the same way as in past seasons. Over the last 2 years, Patrick Graham leaned heavily on rotations with 4 defensive ends, plugging in guys like Malcolm Koonce, Clelin Ferrell, or Andre Carter depending on injuries. This year, though, the Raiders shifted away from that formula, only rolling with 3 edge rushers and relying more on the interior. That subtle change matters, because it means players like Thomas Booker will have greater opportunities to impact games. Instead of being buried behind a wave of edge rotations, he's being asked to step in and disrupt. And based on what we've already seen, he's answering that call. One of the biggest differences for the Raiders this season is how the defensive front is structured. In past years, Patrick Graham leaned on heavy rotations with 4 defensive ends, constantly cycling fresh legs onto the field. This year, that's not the case. Instead, the Raiders are sticking with 3 core edge rushers, Max Crosby, Malcolm Koonce, and Tyree Wilson, and keeping them on the field for the majority of snaps. Inside, the rotation is becoming clearer as well. Adam Butler and Thomas Booker are emerging as the main disruptors on the interior, while John Jenkins and Nesta Jade Silvera, or another depth option, step in to complement them. Even though players like Tonka Hemingway or Lehigh Foda might see limited opportunities, it's clear the Raiders want consistency in the trenches rather than constant swapping. That's a strategic shift, and it could pay off. Fewer rotations mean defenders can establish rhythm, build chemistry, and create more consistent pressure instead of constantly coming in and out. For Booker in particular, this is huge. Instead of being a situational guy, he's being trusted to take meaningful reps, disrupt plays, and grow into a bigger role week by week. The question Raider Nation is asking: can Thomas Booker grow into more than just a rotational piece? The flashes we've seen suggest he could develop into a reliable starter, and maybe even more. He's raw, yes, but he has the traits you simply can't teach. And in this new-look defensive line scheme, he's going to have the chance to prove it. When you look at the Raiders' offense, it's clear that Ashton Jeanty is already drawing serious attention from opposing defenses. Even as a rookie, teams are stacking the box, bringing extra pressure on early downs, and making it their top priority to prevent him from getting into a rhythm. And while the box score might not always show it, that attention is helping the Raiders in a big way. By selling out to stop Jeanty, defenses are leaving themselves vulnerable, and that's where the Raiders' passing attack has been able to strike with big plays. His presence alone is shifting the way opponents call games. If you go back to the tape, you'll see Jeanty still had some solid gains, multiple runs in the 4 to 9 yard range that kept the offense moving. The problem wasn't his effort or ability, it was the situation. Bad weather, a strong Patriots front seven, and predictable late-game rushing calls led to several negative plays down the stretch. Those plays hurt his stat line, but they don't tell the whole story. The bottom line? Ashton Jeanty is impacting games even without gaudy numbers. His ability to draw defensive focus is opening the door for the rest of the Raiders' offense. Once the line gels and play-calling balances out, those flashes of tough, chain-moving runs could turn into consistent production. Raider Nation should be patient, because the foundation is there. Not every tough run falls on Ashton Jeanty. A lot of it comes down to the offensive line execution. On tape, there were snaps where the blocking just didn't add up. For example, on one play, the frontside defensive end went completely unblocked, while the interior tried to back block inside. The design suggested the run was headed to the right, but with a free defender crashing down, the play never had a chance. Jeanty was hit in the backfield for a loss of 5. These kinds of breakdowns are critical to understand, because they skew the numbers. Fans might see a negative run in the box score, but when you study the film, it's clear the rookie back never had an opportunity to succeed. That's part of why his stats don't fully reflect his impact. What matters more is the traits he's showing, patience, vision, and toughness. Even behind inconsistent blocking, Jeanty has found lanes for solid gains, showing the ability to process quickly and make the most of limited space. That's a positive sign for the Raiders' offense moving forward, especially as the line continues to build chemistry. When you watch Ashton Jeanty on film, the vision stands out. He reads his keys well, finds daylight, and shows the patience to let blocks develop. On one play, designed to hit the A-gap, he recognized the lane wasn't there and instinctively bounced it outside. Unfortunately, the wet field caused him to slip. Otherwise, it had the potential to be a touchdown. Those are the kinds of flashes Raider Nation should be excited about. Right now, the big plays aren't always hitting, but it's clear they're coming. All it takes is one crease, one perfectly timed block, and Jeanty's ability to read the field could turn into a 60 or 70-yard run. And that's exactly what the Raiders will need as they head into tougher matchups, like the divisional battle with the Chargers. If the Raiders want to prove themselves as a balanced, playoff-caliber team, they'll have to show they can run effectively against top-tier defenses. That's the next step, and Jeanty has the tools to help make it happen. Now, let's switch gears and talk about the other side of the ball, the Raiders' defense.